because
You are
that's just how it's going to be.
entering, okay, you are entering this space at your own risk. You
Exactly.
know, we got to put up a disclaimer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come with some BS, when you get thrown out of the door, then you'll know why. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hello, everyone. We're having a conversation here, and welcome, Disa, Diosa, Diosa. Okay, the simple wealth blueprint. I know that's right. Okay, we modify. It's a living document, and we will modify as needed. Right? Yes. Hello, Jack. Steve. Steve, it's good to see you as well. Okay. Natasha and how Natasha and I have been live together before. We had such an amazing conversation because we have so much in common. We are very fiery and we will tell you like it is, whether you like it or not. Okay? Because we're all about authenticity over here. Okay? And so when we're authentic and we're speaking truth, sometimes people cannot they're not ready to hear that. And that's okay. When they're ready to come, when they're ready to hear, okay, then they can rejoin us. It's all good. But in the meantime, we have a conversation here today, and we're gonna do just that. We're gonna elevate and rise together. Okay? Whoever's here with us and whoever's not, they can catch it on the replay. All right? So I am Margaret Williams. I am the author of the Empowered Leader publication who help marginalized leaders increase their visibility, their impact, and freedom. Who doesn't want that, right? That's what we're about today. That's what I've been about my entire life and career, okay? To help you to elevate beyond your wildest dreams. And today, I have Natasha Durand uh, Moulton,
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
all right, in the flesh. And she has a powerful story to talk about today because when I first met Natasha, she had not been on Substack very long. And I
Mm-mm.
caught her on one of her lives. Okay. She was doing her makeup. Okay. She was taking her rollers out. She was she was getting ready for an event. And I was intrigued by what she had to say. Okay. So, um, she has come a long way since our first conversation, and she's want to come in to give us an update on the things that she's been working on, okay, on herself and within her community. Okay, so Natasha, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody. I'm Natasha Durand-Moulton. I'm actually, I'm a lot of things. I'm a 11-year Air Force veteran. Um, I am also a mom, a wife. I'm also a widow. I've lived a lot of lives in these past going on 42 years now. But what I'm focusing on now is, of course, my family and, of course, my health, but also my education and my understanding and how I can have that take root here within my own community, both in person and online, so that we can enact some change. And so what I'm doing is I actually just got through getting my PhD study proposal approved with no revisions needed, mind you. So I'm on to the dissertation phase now of my PhD, which focuses on complementary alternative medicine for women with PTSD. And so in that kind of journey, there's been a lot of learning that I've done, regarding mainly women, but people in general, right? And what we go through mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Um, when just going through life. And so I've written some books myself. I've actually written a children's book, but really it's a book for anybody, right? I've written a children's book on anxiety. I love to doodle, so I took my little doodles and made these little monsters and talked about anxiety and what anxiety is and how it shows up and how we deal with it. And I've also been hosting some I've recently hosted a workshop. So we had spring equinox was last Friday, and so Saturday, I had a workshop where I said, you know what? We hold so much stress, we hold so much tension over the years. And I don't know about you, but I know this past year has been particularly stressful. I know for myself it's been, and I'm sure I've heard it from a lot of people. Like this past year's just been so much. And so I hosted a workshop this past Saturday. It was the formerly known as the Total Nervous System Reset Workshop, but I called it my Scream and Cuddle Workshop. We all met together. I gave some education background on the importance of vocalization using our voice when we're feeling frustrated and stressed. Then we screamed bloody murder inside the yoga studio, had some snacks to kind of give ourselves some nourishment, and then we went to a local nonprofit refuge that rescues abused and neglected farm animals, mainly pigs. And we pet and we cuddled pigs and we fed pigs and we released some oxytocin to get ourselves all nice and happy and help regulate that nervous system. And so it was a great time. It was a great opportunity to release. And I'm here today to talk with Margaret and you all about the importance of getting ourselves to actually take root, especially if we're ready to change something. And so, like Margaret said, I'm here. There's no bullshit with me. This is one of those things where I oftentimes I work with people who are like, oh, I want to change this, I want to change this, I want to change this. And we go through the process and they bring things into their awareness that they're not ready to accept. They're not ready, like, they know they got to do the thing. They got to end the relationship. They got to walk away from the job. They got to get up and start moving. They got to get up and start treating themselves right. But that's not the answer they wanted. And so if you're here today, if you are facing a problem, right? I'm here to tell you that we can work through that problem, but you have to be ready to accept what your awareness brings to you. Plain and simple. How are you feeling on that, Miss Margaret?
I'm feeling good. I It's just a matter of maybe how we go about it. Um, and Realizing that everybody is not going to continue along that journey with us. Okay, a lot of
Hmm.
people. So, in order to achieve the things that we want in life, we have to understand it and make the necessary sacrifices to make that
Absolutely.
happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Not everybody's, there are, in psychology, there's a lot of different levels of change, right? There's this idea of like pre-contemplation where we don't even know there is a problem. And that's where a lot of us are. We're just living life thinking like, I don't have any problems. This is not a me issue, right? And then there's some people who get into contemplation where they start to think, okay, there's something going on here. I don't really know what's going on, but something's going on. I don't really know how to address it. And then we get into that planning. Other people are in that planning stage of like, all right, I know something's wrong and I know I got to fix it, but I really don't know what that what's going to look like. And so they're in that planning stage. And then you get into that action stage. So whatever stage you're in is fine, right? We can meet you where you are at any point. But again, it's just about that being honest about where you are, right? It's about being
Yes,
honest about where you are. Um, and so I just want to open that up because that's kind of where I am, especially with this past spring. It's being honest with where we are. And I've even had to be honest with myself as of late. Like I had to be honest with myself. I'm a disabled veteran. And so sitting here and realizing like, "Ooh, my body hurts. Why does my body hurt? Well, my body hurts because I'm not using it the way I need to use it. I'm not treating it the way I need to be treating it. And I'm here partly because, yeah, I got hurt in the military, but I'm also here the other big part because of how I have been treating myself lately. I've been so focused on the PhD, so focused on this. I've been eating junk. I haven't been moving. I haven't been doing what I need to do. And so I'm now in the planning stage. Well, how do I fix this? Right. So we're all somewhere and we can meet you where you are. It's just again, being able to just accept that, whatever that awareness brings up to you.
Sometimes we are unaware even what that is, okay?
Hmm.
Because when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, what is normal? I don't know what normal is. Okay?
There is
Is
no
it
such thing.
right? It's normal the beavers, remember the beavers with the white picket fence, and
Hmm.
you know, you get on the school bus and everybody's smiling
Yeah.
and all this. I'm like, what world is that? Where. So I never had that life, so I wouldn't know.
I honestly did not either. My lifestyle, I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. My grandfather found an old trailer, and like an old 1970s trailer. It still had an old wood stove in it, wood paneling, old wood stove. He plopped it off and he partitioned off part of his pasture that he had his cows in. He partitioned part of that off, popped that trailer in there, and that's where I grew up. That's where I grew up. So, I don't, there's a lot of things, and I understand that that's where a lot of my issues come from. That's where a lot of my patterns and my habits come from. But that's actually one of the things that led me into doing what I'm doing here. And so in my own writing, like what we're doing right now is we're kind of reflecting back. And so that's, the theme of today's podcast here is we have to take root before we can grow. And so, being military, I love acronyms, absolutely love acronyms. And so, root actually has a meaning, and that meaning is reflect, open, organize, and tell. Right.
Hmm.
And so, what we're doing here is important, right? So, it doesn't matter where you are. Okay. Well, unless you're in pre contemplation. If you're not really ready to admit you got a problem, then you probably aren't going to be here. But if you're in that, like contemplation on, you have an idea that something's wrong, or you're ready for action, wherever you might be. It's important to sit down and have these conversations, reflecting back and saying, here's the history behind why I am the way I am. Because our story is what a lot of people don't want to admit is that our stories still have impact today. Our history still has impact today. And we've talked about this in our first podcast, right? Even the stories of our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, great grandparents, they also have impact today, right? So, one of
Yes.
the things that we have talked about is how our generational traumas are carried through our genetics. And so, a lot of what we deal with, a lot of the anxiety and the depression, obesity, in a lot of ways, are related to the things that were happening to our grandparents, our great grandparents. And there's a lot of science behind that. I'm not gonna bore you with it today. If you want, you could go back and watch that previous podcast that we had last year.
I will make sure to add it to this one so they can watch both.
There you
Okay?
go. Yeah, because this is really a continuance to that conversation.
Right.
Because what I've realized is that oftentimes when I'm coaching people, right, when they come in and they're talking to me, we have to reflect back as to like, well, how did I get here? What happened for me to get to where I am today? And we have to acknowledge those things. And so I want to ask you today, if you're sitting here and you jumped into this conversation with Margaret and I, because you are hoping to learn something, to make a change, to bring something forward with you, my very first question for you is going to be, what has gotten you to where you are today? What has brought
And
you?
that's what we call a frame of reference.
Hmm.
You have to have that starting point. Okay. Okay, I'm on island A. How do I get to island B?
Yes. Yeah. And what brought you to Island A in the first place? Because we don't want to make those same mistakes again, right? We don't want to make those same choices again. Some things, some lessons we will want to take with us because we learned a lot of things, right? There's some things that we're going to want to unpack and toss, right? And so that's the importance of reflect, because reflect is giving us that opportunity to look and saying, hey, this is what I've learned. Here's what I'm taking with me, and here's what's getting left behind. And sometimes that's relationships, it's environments, it's jobs, and it's mindsets, right? Getting getting to those points.
This reminds me of a metaphor like Gilligan's Island.
Hmm.
Okay, you on this you end up on this island. You got to figure out how I'm going to eat, how I'm going to get water, how I'm going to sleep. You want to do these things while the sun is still up. Okay, and you're going to gather your team and you're going to figure it out. Well, what are you good at? Okay, well, I'm good. I can figure out the berries. Okay, well, I can figure this out and I can do this. You come together as a team to figure out how you are going to survive. Okay, and
Right.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
resembling of that, right?
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. Figuring out what is going to work, where your strengths lie, what you can do in that moment to survive and then thrive afterwards. Okay? So we've established like we're surviving, we're chugging, we're going along. Now how do I take that next step? And actually so that's where open comes in. All right. So when we get to that point, so we've reflected on, we figure out who's going to go get the berries, who's going to collect the water, who's going to build the little bungalow tree house, right, to stay in. Now we get to this point of open. So we've established this baseline. We've got this baseline. Now here's an interesting thing: is what I often find in people is that they have so many limiting beliefs. How many times do
Yes,
we sit there and talk about what we can't do?
all the time. We're wasting time.
All the time, exactly, and it's such a waste of time because I want to be the first. I might be the first person to tell you this. The field of all possibilities resides in you. The field of all possibility resides in you. We all have a deep inner intelligence that knows exactly what we need. But here's the thing: is we often get so caught up in the day-to-day noise that inner intelligence gets drowned out. How many times do you I mean, I don't know about you, but I think of Jiminy Cricket, right?
Yeah.
Like Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket, right? We all have a Jiminy Cricket in us that's always trying to tell us what we need to do. It's telling us, go drink the water. You're dehydrated. Drink the water. You need more sleep. You need some quiet. You need some rest. You need some self care. You need to walk away. you know, we got that internal mechanism that's in there, and the field of all possibilities is in you, and open allows us to see those things. So once we reflect, once we get to that point of saying, here's my frame of reference, here's where I am, we can now open ourselves up to, okay, well, what can I do with this? And it's limitless. The only limit we have is ourselves in that moment. So what we want to do is to take that ability to just be open and play in it. Just play in it.
Yes. And when we did that as children, that's when I was the most happiest, the most joyful.
It's so funny that you say that. Cause so when I teach class, because I also, so right now, while I'm working through my PhD, and they do this to all PhD students, by the way, they have you go teach, right? Because there's no better way for you to solidify your knowledge than to be able to teach what you're learning, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I teach, and I one of the things is I host office hours every week, and I teach online. So a lot of the people I teach are parents, and I always tell the parents, because they'll always apologize when a kid comes in, and I'm like, don't even apologize. Have that kid sit down. They can join the class. And I've had parents take me up on that. I've actually had one parent in particular who I remember their kids knew when my class was, and they were present. They were there with their dad in that classroom. And the amazing thing was is those kids actually had an easier time answering my questions than the adults did. And that was
But
because those children were completely unrestricted. Completely unrestricted. I would ask something, one of the things I always ask a lot of people is, when we do something, what's your reward going to be?
mm,
Because the thing is if we want to build a good healthy habit, We got to reward ourselves. We got to give ourselves a reason to be happy about that change.
Well,
The
when you talk about, I'm sorry, when
No,
you
go
talk
ahead.
about when you talk about rewards, there are intrinsic and extrinsic.
Hmm.
Uh, a combination is really great because if you just, if you just get the motivation from yourself, it's okay, but you want to keep it going. So it's good to hear the external from other people. Oh, you did a great job. Oh, I like what you did, this and that. So that helps to boost your self confidence, okay, and makes you feel even more worthy.
Yeah. Well, see, there's an interesting thing. It's our physiology is actually at play here. There's a wonderful doctor. She's called Dr. Laura Brunig, who runs the primate. It's the primate lab. She actually looks at basically what she calls happy chemicals, right? And so when we reward ourselves, when we're recognized, like you were just saying, like, wow, you've done such a great job, congratulations. That's serotonin. Serotonin is released, and our brain goes, ooh, what did I do to get that, right? When we reward ourselves with an item, we buy the candy bar, we buy the little house plant or whatever it is that but you reward yourself, the gold star, the happy dance. That's dopamine. Um, when somebody comes up and gives you a big hug, or like for the Scream and Cuddle workshop, when we went out to pet the pigs, we were releasing oxytocin. Oxytocin is released through touch. But they're all happy chemicals. And the funny part about it is that in those moments, I'm trying to get the adults to kind of open up to this idea of like how we reward ourselves, what we can do to release those happy chemicals and strengthen the habit that we're wanting to engage in. And the adults always locked up. The class would go silent and they would just kind of look because they have not ever thought about the idea that they could actually reward themselves. And they had no clue what to do. But those kids knew right off. Those kids knew exactly how they would reward themselves. They would go into stories about how well they did in a class and they got this prize or they got this star or that they would do this or they would do that. And kids have this amazing ability of just being open to the world and to the possibilities around them. And so embrace that inner child, y'all. Embrace that inner child. Okay.
Bec- because most time that inner child was neglected, that inner child was never loved, that inner child was betrayed. So reconnecting with your inner child and giving it the love and affection that it needs and wants is how we become whole as individuals and collectively.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Opening ourselves up to that inner child and to all the possibilities that we had as children, and then being willing to explore that openly with curiosity and kindness is the key.
And we can explore that inner child with our own child, and we that will solidify that relationship with our child forever.
Oh, yes. Yeah, as a mom to a
Yeah,
teenager, the one thing that I've done is intentionally set out to be the person I needed to show up for myself at that age. And it's been a wonderful experience. My kiddo and I have an amazing relationship. I mean, you've met my kiddo. They came in when you and I were chatting.
she was
You
sweet. I told you she gonna be the next president.
know. Funny enough, though, too, so I actually took her to Washington, D.C. a couple years ago, and I got a picture. We were at the White House gift shop, and I actually got a picture of her standing at the presidential podium that they have set up for, like, like photo ops, right? So I actually have a picture of them standing at the presidential podium giving a
Hey,
speech. So, but yeah, so, this idea of open is that when we open ourselves up to every option inside of ourselves.
go ahead. I gotta go see what's up. Keep
Oh,
talking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-oh, I gotta hold this down myself. Um, here's hoping everybody doesn't leave. But no, when
No,
we open ourselves up to every single possibility, and we start to understand that we truly are limitless and that we actually do know exactly what we need. And it's so important to be able to do that. to understand that, only we are the only ones that can hold ourselves back. All of those, I know for a lot of people, oftentimes what will happen is a voice will pop in their head, right? The parent who always put us down, that fifth grade teacher who told us we weren't going to amount to nothing, right? We have that voice that limits, but the minute we can see that that voice no longer holds power, that when we look into ourselves, we know that we can do anything that we set our minds to. And it's a freeing experience.
I just want to say, I did have a positive role model when I was in school. Was my music teacher, because I used to sing in the choir. I used to play the uh, clarinet. I used to play the alto sax. I was in the glee club, and that teacher believed in me, and she kept telling me I could do it, and I remember her to this day. So sometimes we're fortunate enough to have positive role models, whether it's a teacher, a mentor, or somebody just say, uh, hey, here, come over here. Let me show you some things. Let me help you out,
Yeah.
and that changes people's lives.
Yeah, no, I had that too. I had that in high school too. I had a teacher, one of my English teachers, Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Johnson was the first one who looked and was like, she pushed me. She got me into theater, she got me into public speaking. She really really engaged me all through high school cuz she just saw the potential. And I thank her for this ability to like sit here with you today and just be able to talk clearly and communicate clearly. Does she and that's the beautiful thing is when we have that externally, it's a beautiful thing. Now imagine what it feels like to be that for yourself. Imagine what it means to be that for yourself, because that is a never ending well of motivation and encouragement.
Well, I had no choice but to be there for myself because nobody else was. So I said, I had choice. I could stay in the life that I grew up with, or I said no, because I want better for myself. Okay, I cannot
Mhm.
continue to live in this abusive household, in this abusive, organizations or whatever, because I deserve better. When we start accepting less than we're willing to give, start settling, and it's just get continue to get worse after that. So you have to decide: do you want joy, peace, and happiness in your life, or misery?
And that's what I'm saying. That open part is so important because when we close ourselves off from the gifts the world can bring us, if we just go out to get it, we're closing ourselves up from every possibility of ourselves. And we when we close ourselves off from that, we remain exactly where you were talking about, 'cause it was the same for me as well. It was either I take this step or I'm staying here. And I'm staying in this toxicity, I'm staying in this stagnation, I'm staying, where a lot of my classmates, ended up turning to drugs and to other things because they just stayed where they were. And I look at where I am today and realizing, had I not opened myself up to the possibilities of what this world had brought me, I would not be here today. And I love where I am.
Right?
Like,
Right. And I look back at all the people that, were my friends and family. A lot of them stayed where they were, and they got upset because I wanted more for myself. Okay. Why should I accept less when I know there's much more that I can achieve and I can bring others along with me? So why would I settle
yes.
for that?
And isn't it always amazing that they get upset at you for that?
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
find it
right.
amazing. Why are you getting mad at me for this? I'm doing this for myself. And that's the amazing thing is they always get so upset at you whenever you decide to change, because the thing is you just prove them wrong. You prove to them that you open yourself up to this experience and it worked. And I think a lot of that is not they're not upset at you. They're upset at themselves because they didn't take that step you were brave enough to take yourself. And so, and again, as I was working through this process for myself, this idea of like root, right? I realized, okay, like we reflected, we've looked back at like what got me here. All right. And here's what I'm willing to take, and here's what I'm, willing to toss. And then opening myself up to these possibilities, like opening myself up to, what is it that I can do? I could do anything. I could, you know, I can become a doctor, and look at this. I'm going to get my PhD. You know, I can be anything I want to be, and that's exactly what I've set out to do. And now I want to go on though, because there's something here though. We also have to understand we have to organize some of these things, because as much as we might love to play in this big field of all possibilities, this open field of all possibilities, we do have to understand that, yeah, there are some rules, right? As much as we might not like it, there's some rules. Some of us got to keep the job. I know there's some times where I would love to open myself up and just, say a whole lot of things that would probably get me fired. And right now, that wouldn't be a very good thing. At least not yet, maybe. But we also have to understand the culture, the society that we live in, and just there are some things that we have to take into consideration for ourselves, because while we may want to open ourselves up to all of it, and one of those things may be like burn it all down, you know what I mean? Um, it might not be the most opportune time. So the second O in that root is to organize, and to organize that into, what's that first step you can take. And so, again, if you've been sitting here watching with us, I want to ask you, what is that first step that you know you can take but you've been afraid to take it? Oh, if you got something going on there, huh? You got I keep seeing you
Ye-
look around.
Yes, the dog, he continued to bark, and I don't know why. So
Well, we can't
okay,
hear that. I can't hear it, at least.
good, good.
Yeah. um
Did anybody? Did you get any response from your question?
I don't know.
Let me look and
I,
see.
I see that I see that we're still on the kind of resentment part, of that conversation.
Okay. Somebody said same here. They stayed. I left. Thank heaven. They resented it. Still do. Decades later. Okay, that's their problem. Okay.
Yep.
You living your life. You living your best life. I wouldn't care who had a problem with it. That's their problem.
Yep.
Okay. Uh,
Exactly. So, here's the interesting part though, is oftentimes it's that first step that's the most important. And so when we get to organize, we get to figuring out, because here's what I notice for a lot of people is they know that they want to go from point A to point B, right? And what they end up doing though is they try to do all the things to get to point B. But there's steps. You can't just do it all at once. When we do it all at once, when we get the big checklist, and the example that I use in my classes is I explain it this way. New Year's Eve comes around, and we always get the same thing, right? We always get the, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to have a beach body by summer. I'm going to be eating healthy. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing all the things. And so January 1st comes around. We get up, we hit the gym, we give up the sugar, we give up the caffeine, we're eating the salads, we're doing the thing. But there's this thing called Quitters Friday. It's the second Friday of January. It's actually got a name. The second February of January is called Quitters Friday. And the reason it's called Quitters Friday is because that's when most people take a nosedive in those resolutions. And why is that? Good, it's our physiology. We stress ourselves out. We take on too much, and again, our brain likes to be happy, and it likes efficiency. Okay, it doesn't like to struggle and work through things. And so it's looking and going, why can't I have my coffee? Why can't I have the candy bar? Why are we my body hurts? Why are we going and working out? Why how is this fun? How is this happy? How is this good? And we end up huddled, Friday night, we're sitting on our kitchen floor hugging a pint of Haagen-Dazs, crying and wondering why we can't do it. We can't do it because we've just taken on entirely too much. We didn't figure out what the first step was. Okay. So when we get in a car, right, we don't get in the car and do everything all at one time to get to where we're going.
No.
No. What is the first step? We get in the car, we'll put our
Yep.
seatbelt on. What's the next step? We have to take it sequentially, one by one, to get to where we are. And change is no different. Change is no different. Um,
Because that's because we're on autopilot. We're just doing things
mhm.
just, yeah, and not being intentional about it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so organize is that it's exactly it. It's getting intentional about what we set out to do. Right. Because if you don't get intentional about it, you're not going to see it through. It's not going to become a lifelong sustainable thing for yourself. And so we organize. And so, and I'm going to be honest, some people, they want to clear the elephant out of the room. And that's okay. If you want to head off and you want to get the biggest thing done first so you can see the space that you're working in, by all means, fine, if that works for you. But other people, I know like myself, I like doing the small little things first so I can see like momentum, and I like working myself up.
I'm just the opposite. I prefer to do the bigger thing first. That way, because that's going to exude the most energy. And so by the time I finish that, then the smaller thing would be like a piece of cake. That's just my, so whatever works best for you.
Exactly. Exactly. It doesn't necessarily, one way is not right or wrong. Okay. But it's again being intentional about what you're setting out to do. Cause like for you, Margaret, it's, you will set out to do that big thing, but don't juggle a little shit. Okay. Just it's okay if it's there. It's okay if it's in there. It does not need your immediate attention right now. Focus on the big thing. For myself, it's focus on each of those little things first until I get those out of the way. And then I'll get to the big thing and be like, hey, I achieved all this already. I got you. This is no problem.
And now I can go and celebrate and eat my Haagen Dazs in peace.
Yes. For me, it'll be buying my house plant because if you saw my room here, every single window's got. I'm covered in house plants, but yeah. So, yeah, and you reward yourself at every stage. Reward yourself because I'm telling you, if you reward yourself, you're working with your physiology. Okay, you're actually working with your body instead of against it. So, um,
And
but
then
yeah,
you
so
say to yourself, what's the next thing I'm going to work on? Yes,
exactly, exactly.
yes.
And then we're moving from island A to island B. And we've got that rhythm, right? We're in the boat and we're not paddling sporadically. We got, we're the rowing team at that point in time.
We're rowing with the tide, not against it, okay? To make things
Yes.
easier for ourselves because I forgot where I was living at the time, but they had this rowing team. They was out there, they was in sync. They was in the flow. You could see them. They was
Yes.
moving and I like, y'all go then.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
And that's
It
us.
was in sync.
Once we get this in, once we reflect on where we've been and we frame what's going on, we get that structure under us. We open ourselves up to everything that we could possibly do, and then we take those things and we organize them into this is how I'm going to do them. We're in that flow. We're in that flow, and we are doing the things that we have only set back and dreamt that we could do.
Yes. Yes, we are manifesting it and we are doing it at the
Yes.
same
Yes.
time. Yes.
Absolutely. We are manifesting. Exactly. But we're doing more than manifesting. We're making it tangible.
Yes.
We are showing people like this works. Look at me go. Look at
Yes.
me go.
And it motivates the entire team
Yes.
to do the
Absolutely.
same.
Yeah. And for those who don't, and I want to go back to some of the comments here about those people who are resenting, right? The people who are looking at you and are pissed off because of doing what you're doing. Those people were not meant to be there for you. They're not your cheerleaders.
But
Don't even
they
listen.
but they give us the fuel we need. We alchemize the hate
There
and
you
turn
go.
it into power. Turn it into
Absolutely.
power.
Yes, exactly. Don't let it drag you down. If anything, that needs to reassure you you're doing it right.
Because otherwise they wouldn't be envious of you. Okay? You'd be just like everybody else.
Yep, and they wouldn't be giving you at the time of day at that point. So
Exactly. So
I,
you
I
must be doing something right. So keep doing what you're doing.
I love it. I love it. Exactly. So we get to this point and we're organized. So again, I want to ask our viewers here, what do you know? What is that first step? I know you know it. I do. I know that deep down that inner voice, that inner intelligence, your Jiminy Cricket is telling you exactly what you need to do. So what is it? What is it that you wanna do? I know like for myself, it's I gotta get up, I gotta move, I gotta quit the doom scrolling. I gotta keep making the excuse of, oh, I gotta get this work done. I gotta get this work done. And I stay in this chair, right? I stay in this chair and then I wonder why my back hurts, why my hips hurt, why this hurts, And so I gotta get up and move. I gotta respect my body. I just gotta do it.
When you respect your body, it respects you. Okay?
Ex-
The body is the temple. If we don't take care of the body, then how is the body going to take care of us when we need it the most?
Yep, exactly. And so I had to bring that into my awareness. I had to reflect back, understanding I never saw a lot of my family move. Even to this day, my mother will sit back and she sips her Pepsi in her recliner and does the same thing, complains about this hurting and that hurting and the other thing. And so I'm seeing where that's embodying and I did open myself up to the million and one things I could possibly do, but then I had to organize it into, okay, well, what can I actually like reasonably do and not kill myself?
You
I
know
can
what?
reasonably go outside and do yoga in my backyard. I can reasonably stand up and stretch between tasks. So what is the first step that you can do? What have you been wanting to change? And what is that first step that you can take to get there?
I just want to make a point before I forget. You said something very valid. My mother used to sit there and complain. She sit there and complain all fucking day. It was the weather. It was her back. It was something else. It was always something she complained about. She never had anything good to say about anything or anybody, including me. So then I wonder why I take on this same persona later on down in life. It's because all the negativity was spewed 24/7.
Hmm.
And that's why it's like, I got to get out of this because in that type of mentality, you can never accomplish anything. You have to flip the script. You have to think positive. Okay, I want my glass to be half full, not half empty. Okay, what can I do? Okay, instead of sitting up there complaining,
Yep.
what the fuck are you going to do about it?
Exactly. And and it's so funny because when I got to thinking about it, the two people that stuck out to me was my mother and her mother, my grandmother. And both of them, my memories of them were sitting in their chairs. My grandmother's chair was in the kitchen, sitting in the kitchen in her chair, smoking cigarettes and not doing nothing. My grandmother didn't drive. She relied on everybody and everything around her, and her body deteriorated. Her body deteriorated quickly, and then my mother's sitting in her recliner with her Pepsi, and sitting there and then just wondering why she's so stiff, why she's so sore, watching her hobble around. And so understanding, like when I reflected back on that and realizing I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing like it's generationally following me in. I'm doing the same. I'm stuck in this chair, but I'm making excuses for myself. Oh, I got to
Yeah.
get this dissertation done. I got to get this next podcast done. I got to get my social media done. Like, I don't have to do it all in a day. And I open myself up to that. Like, I don't have to do this all in a day. I don't have to sit here keeping myself in this chair for 8 to 12 hours. I have a whole 5 days a week to get this work done. I just need to be more intentional, which is that word you brought up. I need to be more intentional about what I'm doing and I need to respect myself. And I open myself up to that. And then I organized it into, well, what can I reasonably do given where I am in life? And so what I'm asking for our viewers here to do is, reflect back on the patterns that you have seen that come up either within yourself or even outside of yourself, because what you see, what you grew up with, what you've experienced is it's going to follow you in different ways,
Yeah,
right?
because my mother would say all these negative things, then she would talk about these shame and guilt and all these things, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to be that person. No, 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 no,
Hmm.
no, no. What can I get up and do instead of
Right.
sitting up here complaining about it? Because if you don't get up and do something about it, it's going to remain. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Exactly. And so and that's what I saw for my entire life. It was my mom dropped out of high school. My grandmother graduated, but she didn't do anything. She didn't go in. She didn't get her driver's license. She ended up marrying my grandfather, and then she stayed in the little trailer that they bought for themselves to the day she died. And I am the first one in that kind of line to leave, to get out, and to go as far as I have gone. And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been intentional about what it is that I'm setting out to do. And I have to, and the thing is, you have to keep that going. So reflect on where you've been, reflect on all of that past, figure out, get that frame of reference, like you said at the beginning, Margaret. Once you get that, open yourself up to everything you could possibly do, and then you're going to organize it into what is the first step. Okay, be intentional. Like Margaret said, be intentional about that first step and then take that first step. And that actually gets me into tell. So here's the thing is, unless you actually put it out there, okay? Write it on a piece of paper. Tell yourself, tell a friend, pop into a Substack and put a comment in there saying, here's what I'm going to do. Okay? But you've got to tell, you've got to put that out into the universe. In a system of medicine called Ayurveda, it's a 5,000-year-old system of Indian medicine. In the Vedic literature, they actually point out that sound has organizing power. So when we are talking about something, and we see this actually physiologically, it's really interesting, at least to me. I'm a nerd, but it's really interesting. Sound does actually have organizing power. There's a specific sequence within our ear that sound goes through before it hits the brain, because it all gets organized into very specific vibrational wavelengths. And so these people 5,000 years ago, before they had microscopes and ability to like really dig into this, they knew this. They understood that sound has an organizing power. And so when we talk about something, oftentimes all we got to do is talk about it, and all of a sudden we're feeling better. All of a sudden we're like, oh, that's a lot more clear, because sound has this organizing power. I'm sorry, you're going to say something.
No, I want you to finish because I wanted to. I wrote it down so I won't
Oh,
forget.
okay. Yeah, so sound has this beautiful organizing power. And so when we speak something into existence, when we say, I am going to do this, our brain organizes it and goes, okay, we're going to do this. Right? It becomes more tangible, it becomes more concrete, and we're also more likely to get and stick with it. We're more likely to take that first step. So, what I'm saying here is, so we've reflected on it, we've opened ourselves to possibilities, we've organized it into what is that first step. Now tell us what that first step is. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it in some way. Put it in a journal, put it on a post-it note, put that post-it on a fridge or on your bathroom mirror. Tell a friend, okay? Drop a comment here. Whatever you need to do, but get it out of your head. All right, that is the final step.
Okay, what I wanted to talk about is tell. Okay, how you can find out if people are in your corner. You tell them, oh, I'm planning on going on a trip, or I'm going to school. And if you start to feel something dark and deep inside, then you realize that person don't have your best interests at heart. I'll give you an example. For example, say I tell my mother, Mom, I'm planning on going back to school to get my degree. And she's like, well, why do you want to do that? You should go and find you a good man and just settle down and get married and have kids. You see what I'm saying? So when you see that somebody is not going to celebrate you or be happy for a decision that you made for yourself, cut that person off and don't tell them anything else about what you plan on doing,
Mm-mm.
because those type of people will sabotage you instead. So be
Yeah.
careful who you tell your business to.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes I tell people that stuff just to get a reaction to see if they're in my corner or not. And when I see that they're not, then I will never tell that person anything else. I'll tell them the opposite of what is true, to lead them down the blind alley. Okay?
Yeah,
So
no,
that's what
absolutely. It
I
is
wanted to tell you.
absolutely. It is so important to tell the people that we trust and that we know are going to be in our corner, that we know that are going to support us and cheer us on and then celebrate our wins as well. So we're not telling just anybody and just putting it out there for them to do whatever they want with it. We're putting it out there so that we can find the support and the encouragement that we need. Because there's going to be days where we're going to feel like, "Oh man, why am I doing this? Why where am I going? What am I doing?" And we'll look back and we'll be like, "This is where I was and this is where I am now. This is how much progress I've made." And we will have that person in our corner cheering us on. And I agree. There's been times where, for me it's my father, right? um for me it's my father. My father was always the one who was telling me that I was never going to be any better than this. I was going to get married, and I was going to end up having a bunch of kids. I was going to be barefoot and pregnant, standing in the kitchen while my husband came home, was drinking beer and blah 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 blah, right? And so there was always that voice in the back of my head, and I cut that voice off. And I don't go telling my father anything else. My father doesn't know anything about my life other than what he has maybe heard through my siblings, right? And the reason why is because there was no support there. There was no support there. So don't go tell, right, you're right, Margaret. Do not go telling people who are going to sabotage your happiness.
And it's sad. It's the people that you think that you love, the ones that are closest to
Hmm.
you, and even so-called friends. Okay, you have to watch people. So it's a lot of people. They gonna say they're happy for you, but they're not.
Right.
So be mindful of that.
Yes, be very mindful. And to be honest, it kind of goes back to that idea of like sometimes we kind of when we start the cycle over again when we reflect back on it and we realize that there's some people that just don't need to be in our plans in our life. And it's okay to kind of come to that. And we open ourselves up to, well, where can I be? Where can I go where I can be supported? Where I can be celebrated? Where my wins are met with happiness rather than resentment. And then we take
Exactly.
that first step
Absolutely.
and the
Absolutely. Let
process
me see.
starts all over.
Exactly. So let me see if there's any other comments here. Um, let's see. EG said nice live stream, much appreciated. Thank you very much. Valerie, keep going, girls, you rock. Thank you so much. EG says being solution orientated breaks down the negativity.
Yes.
Um, and Valerie said love body as a temple, 100%. Exactly right. EG said keeping a daily routine and interacting with animals is very helpful uh him or she.
For
Okay.
you, for them. Yeah.
For them. Yes. I love that. Yes. Animals, yes, for sure. Right now, I have a headache. I need rest. Okay, Valerie, you take care of yourself. Maybe you need to hydrate. Um, oh, Natasha, she said your name sounds like a French one.
My name is Russian apparently, and I'm actually named. My first and my middle name are from a girl my mom babysat before I was born, and my mom loved the name so much she named me that. So I have got another
Mm.
woman walking around here on this earth, and her and I share the same name. So
Hey,
yeah.
there it is. EG said gardening is a very healthy activity. It is. It is very
Hmm.
therapeutic. Yes. Uh, yes. Yeah, Natasha is a firecracker. I love her because we have a lot in common. So yes, she said they say she's okay. We read that again. So I don't see that anybody have any questions. Does anybody have any? Hi, Millie. Thank you. Hey. Cross things off my to-do list is always a great joy. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes.
Seeing that list
EG's
shrink and then doing the happy dance because I'm like, I did it. I got it. We're good.
hey, absolutely
Still.
right. EG says adult. artistic person, unrestricted questions are sometimes unwelcome and cause others to lash out. My Substack got throttled as a result.
Uh, I haven't had that happen yet. I have a feeling it's coming though. At some point, I'm going to say something that's going to not sit well with people. But I'm going to be honest. There were, people's reactions to that is because because you hit a wound, you hit a soft point for them, and again for them it's that awareness is uncomfortable. And I'm actually getting into this in my future substack. So this past workshop on the 21st, after spring equinox, was closing out a conversation that I had on language and the importance of language. We can be aware of a lot of things, we can understand a lot of things, but if we don't have the language to like communicate those things, then what use is that awareness?
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I was in Israel for two different tours. Okay, so a total of 11 years, and I never learned Hebrew, but I read people's body language and I
Mhm.
understand what they're saying. Okay, and I pay attention to the signs, so I understand when a person's voice raised. Okay, they could either be happy or they could be angry. Okay,
Right.
and so you could tell. Okay, so then I just plan accordingly. I never learned the language. I learned a few words, a few bad words,
You
and
still
so
understood language. Body language
understood
is language.
exactly, exactly. So a lot of times, a person's body language is the true self, and what they're saying out of their mouth is a lie.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And actually I went into that. There's kind of three different types of language, right? There's the verbal language that we speak. There's that somatic language, which is where our movements and our body language come into play. And then there's visual language as well. Art is a language. When we're creating something, whether it's abstract or not, that is its own language as well. So language isn't just the words. For some of us it may be the movement, it may be getting that physically out, and expressing ourselves. That for some others it may be expressing themselves visually through art and through other mediums, here on Substack, right? Um but we're coming out of that idea of language and we're stepping into awareness. So this today or yesterday, my blog dropped, and starting to talk about awareness. And so we're getting into awareness because, especially as we work through this system, this reflect and open and organize and tell system, awareness is going to pop up. And so I say that because the people who get mad at you, who spit vitriol at you, who are somehow bothered by your words, it's because you hit a spot. You hit an unhealed spot, you hit a wound, you hit a place that they all of a sudden become very aware of, and that awareness brings discomfort. And next week I'm going to be talking about that. We got to sit, sometimes you just got to sit in that discomfort. And so let them sit in that discomfort, because they're going to do a few things, but usually one of two things, right? Either they're going to sit in that discomfort and they're going to work to change it and heal it,
Let's hope.
or they're going to put a band-aid over it and, oh, I'm fine, and ignore it.
The choice is theirs.
Their choice is theirs.
Once we put the message out, how they receive it is up to them. Okay,
Exactly.
we're not here to sugarcoat. We're not here to make things comfortable for people.
And it's not
We're
your
just not.
responsibility. It is not your
Exactly.
responsibility to do that.
And remember that, each and every one of you, remember that. You got a message, deliver it. If a person got a problem with it, okay, they can unsubscribe. That's where I'm at today.
Yep. Yep,
And
absolutely.
I'm
It is
not
not your
apologizing.
responsibility to
Not
sit there
apologizing.
and it is not your responsibility to minimize yourself for others' comfort.
No, and I'm not doing that no more.
Right.
When I first got to Substack, I was censoring myself. I was doing all these things, and people were still getting upset. So I'm gonna say what I want to say and how I want to say it, and then they'll come around, or they go somewhere else.
Yeah. So, if you're out there and you're creating, keep doing your thing.
Exactly. Keep doing
Reflect,
it.
keep doing it. Keep
Exactly.
doing it, because I have a feeling I'm about to irritate and piss a lot of people off because I'm getting to that
Call
point of
me.
awareness.
Call me, and we'll have a drink over it.
Sounds
I
good.
haven't had a drink in a long time. I'm ready for one.
Yeah, I hear you on that one because I think the conversation of awareness is a touchy one because there's a lot of things that we don't want to become aware of. Like you and I were talking about, it's in the back of our head, but it's in the back. When we bring it up front, where we got to like look at it, like we got to actually look at it, we got to actually sit with it, and we got to be uncomfortable. you
Yeah.
know but and a lot of people aren't ready for that work, and they're also not ready to be called out on saying you're avoiding it. All right. And so that's where I'm going into next week.
Okay, you sit over there, you think about it, and when you're ready to address it, then come on back and we can have a conversation. Because I get triggered too. Okay, I'm human. We all are human. But if we're triggered, we need to take a step back and take a look at it. Why am I triggered by what she said?
And see, right there, you're already engaging in that root method. You're reflecting on why am I being triggered? And then you open yourself up. Well, what can I do about this? How can I address this? What can I do? And then you figure out what's the first step. What's the first step so this doesn't control me anymore? And I think that that's the part that I'm getting at. Is like I see so many people who are controlled by the script, by the narrative, by the triggers, by all the things in their life, and they're just mindlessly walking through it, and then wondering, why is this happening to me? I can tell you why it's happening to you, but you need to be aware of it. You need to recognize it for yourself. And exactly what you did right there, engage in some reflection and then open yourself up to how you can fix it and then figure out what that first step is and then tell me about it. Come talk to me
Yeah.
about it and we'll work on it together.
You can come back and we can talk about it because nine times out of 10, I was triggered about it too, a while ago.
Mhm.
But now I'm over it since I sat and reflected on it and say, okay, this is some changes that I need to make in myself because you know, I don't like what I see. I don't like what I feel. Okay. And how can I become my
Yes.
best self is dealing with that. Okay. Working through it step by step. But
And that's how it works.
but you don't have to work on it alone. You don't have to do it alone.
No, you don't have to do it alone. And what I want to do is I want to, if you are ready for this work, if you are ready for this conversation, these are the conversations that I'm having here over on my Substack, right? And I've told Margaret this, I've told a few other people that I've met with here on this platform as well. My goal right now is I'm actually not selling anything. All of my stuff is out there. It's for free. Okay. It is out there. Why is that? Because I want to build the community. All right. I want to build the community. I want to build the connections. I want to start the conversation, and from there I'll build it however it builds from there organically. But I want to invite you all over. If you're ready for this conversation, come on over. I would love to have you. I want to have this conversation. I want to build this conversation in this community because I think that to be honest with you, so many of us are ready for it. I think we are all, in many ways, we are so ready to change this shit. Just to be like, I'm over it. I'm done. I want to make a better. I want to make a better life. I want to make a better world, and we do that by coming together, having the conversation, and then going and doing the work.
We just can't come over and expecting free handouts. We also have to be able to give back in ways that we can.
Yes.
Each and every one of us have skills, talents, and expertise. So how can you bring that to the community as part of your offering? Okay? So that's how we collectively learn and grow together.
Hmm.
Just like your gifts. How can we bring those together to bring collective wisdom and growth to the world, right? We don't live in
Absolutely.
this world alone.
Yep. Absolutely. And that goes back to what you were saying with Gilligan's Island. We got, what are you good at? You're going to go get the waters. You're going to go collect the berries. You're going to build the bungalow. You're going to build the raft to get us off this damn thing. Like, what are we going to do? But we got to come together. We got to bring our own unique talents and gifts and our own unique perspectives too. Because I can't build a world based on just my perspective because it's not going to work for everybody. It might work great for me, but it might not work great for you. So I need your perspective. I need your voice in this as well, and I want to welcome you into that conversation. I want to have that conversation and see what we can build together.
Absolutely. So you know where to find me, Natasha.
Oh, I know where to find you. Yes, ma'am.
And so each and every one of us, we have to do the same thing. I'm always connecting. Every day when I go to notes, I'm always connecting with new connections. Okay. Seeing how we can possibly collaborate and partner together. And that's it's like this big chain. Okay. The chain says something about the weakest link. We're only as strong as the weakest link, and that's the ones that
Mhm.
we want to bring to the fold and help to cultivate and nurture them, and to bring all of us along together. Okay, so we can thrive together.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, we need this more now than ever. Because
Yes,
we're living in a world that's really trying to separate us, that, they're trying to isolate us from each other, because they understand that when we are separated, when we are isolated from each other, we become that weak link, and it's a lot easier to break one weak link than it is to break the whole chain. And so we need to come together, and we need to start building these communities. We need to start building on to this collective knowledge that we have, um, and build something strong, build something great.
that's why we're here. Okay, it's all
Hmm.
about the laws of attraction. So this has been such an amazing conversation, and I knew it would be, and I was so excited to have this conversation with you again. You're such a bright light, such a fire. Okay, and so we're going to continue to nurture and cultivate our relationships, our communities, and and bring positive change into the world.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Margaret. As always, you create a space, and I love having conversations with you, because I always come out feeling so energized. I don't Your energy is it comes through the screen. It comes through the screen, and I'm like, I can say and do anything. Yes. So thank you so much for creating this space and for creating these opportunities. We really appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Do you have any final suggestions or recommendations for people?
Honestly, take that first step. Okay? Again, listen into what you need to do. You know what you need to do. 1% a day, okay? Even 1% is change. And 1% will compound into 20%, and then that 20% becomes 50%. Before you know it, you are living a completely new life, but it starts with that first step. So if you've been hesitating, I want you to take this as your cue from the universe. Do it. Step into it and do it now. Don't wait till the perfect time. Now is the perfect time.
Boss up!
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again. Thank you again.
Yes, thank
Appreciate
you,
you.
Margaret. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
You too. All right, bye.